Welcome to The Issue Is, Fox 11's new political show talking what's hot, what's important, what's affecting you. I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, the issue is the race for governor. After campaigning hard for more than 24 hours straight, Democrat Antonio Villaraigosa is still awake and with us live.
Looking forward to it, Alex. Let's see if I'm bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Also, our one-on-one with John Chiang, California State Treasurer, also vying for the state's top job. And our panel on the big stories, the governor's race, Roseanne, plus Kim Kardashian at the White House. Joining us, KABC Radio's Leeann Tweeden, KNX 1070's Dick Helton, and Occidental's Caroline Heldman. The Issue Is starts right now. And thank you so much for joining us. With just days to go in the race for governor, polls show Democrat Antonio Villaraigosa in the fight for his political life. And don't just take my word for it. Here's the headline from today's LA Times. The mayor campaigning for more than 31 hours straight. And as part of that, he's here on The Issue Is. So good to see you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for honoring the commitment to be here.
And the jury's in.
Yes.
I'm not bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, how are you feeling? How tired are you? Talk to us about this journey you've been on.
I'm actually not tired. I'm fired up, and I am because I met so many great people along the way. I was at Grand Central Market. I was at two metro stops. I was in every part of the city and places I've been to many times. There were a couple of good luck charms there that I've done 6, now 7 24-hour runs. This was 31. So it was a great time just interchanging with people and reminding them to come out and vote on Tuesday.
And that's some video of you on that run for the last several hours. So let's talk about where things are at right now. Most polls show Gavin Newsom pretty far ahead, shows you and John Cox, the Republican, in a dogfight for number 2. Now, the question is, are we going to have a Republican versus Democrat or a Democrat versus a Democrat? Gavin Newsom, when I talked to him, told me it's better if we have a Republican versus Democrat because then we don't have Democrats spending hundreds of millions of dollars potentially going after each other. What do you say?
Well, you would say that in your head, and virtually every pundit, Democrat and Republican, that criticized that notion as cynical. The fact of the matter is we should have a debate about the future. You're not going to have a real debate with somebody who has no shot of winning. John Cox is never going to be governor of California. The math isn't there for him. It's a very blue state. So I think it would be important for this state for us to have a conversation about what we're going to do about the fact that the state is the 5th largest economy in the world with the highest effective poverty rate. We have a homelessness rate that we all have to ask ourselves, what are we doing that we have so much homelessness? You know,
so what are we doing that we have so much homelessness?
Well, I tell you, we're not treating it like a crisis. And as governor, what I've said is we got to give cities back the money we took from them for redevelopment dollars for affordable housing. We got to have a housing trust fund that says to cities, you got to have you got to put up your own money. You have to plan for homeless, workforce, affordable, transit-oriented development, ADUs, granny flats in the backyard. But you also have to streamline permitting and zoning changes because we're just not building enough units in this state.
Another big issue is that of education. Some of your biggest backers are supporters of charter schools. You've had big donations from Reed Hastings of Netflix and Eli Broad and Michael Bloomberg, giving millions of dollars to an organization that is backing you. What do they want for that money?
Well, the other candidate also has millions of dollars backing him by independent expenditures. I think what the people are going to get, not them, but the people of California, is a man who's going to be focused on education. And the best way to know that is to see what I did as mayor. When I became mayor, 1 out of 3 schools were failing. There was a 44% graduation rate. I challenged the city and said, this city won't survive, much less thrive, with that kind of a rate. I took it from 1 out of 3 to 1 out of 10 schools failing, from a 44% graduation rate to 72%. Political Fact looked at that and said, you know, I wasn't exaggerating. It's true. The fact of the matter is about 83% of our kids are graduating. If you're poor, it's 70%. If you're an English language learner, it's 64%. The next governor is going to have to grapple with the fact that the reason why we're not growing together in this economy, there's 2 Californias, 1 rich and 1 poor, is we're not focused enough on education. And that means early child education, all the way to college affordability.
Another big issue is that of transportation and of traffic. As mayor, of course, you built light rail here in the city.
Three light rails,
rails.
one busway, more than anybody in the United States of America.
But traffic is still such a big issue.
Well,
so what does the traffic look like? What's the solution there?
Well, look, I also tripled the number of left-hand turn signals, stopped construction during the rush hour. We have what the quintessential city of sprawl. People live in the outlying areas, and the jobs are in the inner areas. So that's what transit-oriented development's all about, bringing housing closer to jobs so you don't have the kind of traffic that you have. The fact is, there are 4 million people in this town. There are 10 million in the county and 18 million in the region. So as mayor, I did more than any other mayor with respect to addressing public transportation particularly, but also the issue of congestion and the like.
Let's do something called the policy issue. These are issues that don't probably get enough attention, but we want to talk about it. So you get to pick one of these cards and pick it randomly and read it out and tell us what you think.
Marijuana. How is the marijuana experiment going and what can be improved? I think what's being very clear is that the law hasn't been implemented. The people have spoken. Whether you agree or not with that initiative, the fact is they've spoken. Many of the cities aren't complying. They're very slow in implementing this law. We still haven't figured out how to bank the marijuana proceeds. And so what you have is very little in terms of revenue that was supposed to come actually coming to the Treasury.
Yeah, and of course, you were the only candidate that admitted that you had smoked marijuana, and a lot of people were wondering if other people were being honest when they answered that question. Let's go to something called personal issues. This is where we got 30 seconds to learn a little bit about you and have a little bit of fun, too. So you ready? Okay, here we go. Favorite pie?
Apple.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
Favorite Star Wars character?
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Meal you cook the most?
Meal I cooked the most, it was chicken.
Okay, last movie you saw in a theater?
Black Panther.
First concert?
Three Dog Night.
Favorite newscaster?
You.
Okay.
At least you
got the last one right. Thank you very much. Well, you know, something else that is today. You know, it's National Donut Day. And I know you got to stop by Randy's Donuts. I think we might have a picture of that. So that's a lot of fun. With
Villaraigosa. They made the donuts in
So we know you're on hour 31, so we wanted to help you out to get some sugar. So DK Donuts gave us this donut right here. It's red, white, and blue, American flag style, just for you. And there we go. How's it feel? Is that going to get you home? I need some sugar,
It's going to give me a sugar rush.
Yeah, we both do. Mayor, thanks so much for coming in. Best of luck to you on Tuesday. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Up next, a different view from Democrat John Chiang. Stay with us. Mayor's already heading out. See you later.
I think I'm supposed to leave. I thought you wanted me out of here. No? Yeah, right.
A beautiful shot of downtown LA's iconic City Hall as the weekend celebrations are on. Welcome back to The Issue Is. John Chiang has won statewide elections multiple times, but he's struggled in the polls for governor. A recent issue of the widely read LA Downtown News endorsed Chiang for governor, the editorial saying, quote, Chiang is not the flashiest candidate in the race, not even close, but it adds that his 8 years as state controller and 4 as treasurer makes him the best prepared to helm a diverse state with a $190 billion budget. John Chiang recently joined us here in studio. Okay, so you're the treasurer, so let's talk about the budget to begin. The governor recently announced $8 billion in extra money that he wasn't accounting for. First up, how do you just find $8 billion extra dollars, and what do you think that money should go towards?
Well, strong positive news. We know that a decade ago, this state was being written off by people throughout the United States, mocking California. I was trying to keep California afloat as the state controller. Our economy had dropped, and we learned last week that California is now back up to the world's 5th largest economy. We ought to put some of the money aside, but then we ought to be investing in the critical issues. For me, the most important priority is education. We have a homeless and housing crisis in California. We should be spending some of those monies in those areas.
Do you think that California has gone too far when it comes to the sanctuary state bill? And what do you say to people who say maybe it's time to rethink what you're doing?
No, we took the right step. We ought to affirm the fact that this is a state of great diversity, built on the backs of not only the Native Americans, but the immigrants. Somewhere along the line, you know, most of us are products of people who came to this country. We want to protect those values. We also want to protect public safety, but I believe that we ought to protect the California Values Act.
Yeah, okay, we want to do something called the policy issue. These are issues that maybe don't get a lot of attention. Of course, the rape kit issue is one of those. And I want to see, you get to pick one of these.
I'll let you pick the most vexing question you have.
No, you pick.
Okay.
You pick.
I'll go with number one. Let's
Okay.
see, behind door number one.
Okay, it says education. Does
Yes.
California have too many or not enough charter schools, and why?
Well, the charter schools are here to stay. We need to make sure that they're held accountable, right? No for-profit charter schools. That's absolutely, we shouldn't be using public taxpayer dollars to line the pockets of those in the private sector. We need to make sure that the charter schools, like traditional public schools, have disclosure of conflict of interest, greater transparency, making sure that they follow the same rules and regulations. And so I think that levels the playing field and gives everybody better access.
What do you make of the fact that Antonio Villaraigosa is getting $8.5 million at least from charter school advocates? What do you think they want from that money?
Well, it's clear what they want for that money. And then I think it's right. This race, unfortunately, like so many races, has turned into one of the special interests. Some of Gavin's special interest supporters are attacking me today because my numbers are going up in the polls. And, you know, we know Antonio's special interests are pushing their particular interests. It's time.
So where are you guys different on charter schools, policy-wise?
Accountability, transparency, no for-profit.
Okay, let's talk for a moment about the personal issues. This is where we get to have some fun, right? Get to know a little bit more about your personality, and we're going to put 30 seconds on the clock and ask you a bunch of questions. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. Dog or cat?
Love dogs.
Favorite book?
Favorite book? Youth Fahrenheit 451.
Favorite band or musician?
Bruce Springsteen.
Me too. Favorite quote or motto?
Let's see. Saint Francis Assisi, all the darkness in the world cannot extinguish the light of a single candle.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
One thing you'd bring to a deserted island?
Passion.
Woo! Beer or wine?
Well, I get gout with beer, so wine.
Okay.
I love beer, though.
What is your passion? Tell me more about that.
Oh, I love hanging out with my family and friends. So at the end of the day, I think most people, you know, you have this incredible gift. I have parents who made extraordinary sacrifices.
Well, thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it, and best of luck to you in the race for governor.
And thank you for your mom for making those cookies and brownies.
Oh, yes, my mom made cookies for the green room, so I'm glad you like them.
I'm going to try one now.
Thank you very much. I love you, Mom. Thank you. You can listen to in-depth conversations with Chiang and all of the leading candidates for California governor right now. The issue is podcast streaming wherever you listen to podcasts. Our panel is up next. We got Leeann Tweeden, Dick Helton, Caroline Heldman. They're all standing by. We're going to hear from them. A lot of big issues to get to when we come back. Welcome back to The Issue Is. Time for our panel. Leeann Tweeden, a morning news anchor for KABC Radio. Dick Helton is a morning news anchor for KNX Radio. And Caroline Heldman is a political science professor at Occidental College, but after this, she's probably going to be a morning news anchor.
Should be great.
It's a radio station. Good to have you guys here.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about the governor's race first. We just had on Antonio Villaraigosa and John Chiang. Any thoughts on what they had to say, or any thoughts on where the state of the race is right now? Maybe Dick.
Well, I was interested to hear Antonio say that John Cox will never be governor of California because math doesn't add up. Let's not forget that Donald Trump was never going to be president until the math added up.
Right.
Yeah, but Donald Trump has a 70% negative rating in the state of California. I think it's a much harder battle than it would be with an electoral college in a 50-state fight. I don't see a Republican being viable in this state probably for many decades, but I think it's interesting that it would be better for democracy if we had Cox and Newsom in the runoff, but if we had Villaraigosa and Newsom, then it would bring more Democrats to the poll because it would be a really interesting race, and it would help in the House races that, you know, the 7 seats that Hillary Clinton won that are held by Republicans that the Democratic Party is trying to flip.
Yeah, because it would probably depress Republican turnout in those very districts.
What I like about the top two coming out of this primary going into the end of this year if it is Cox against what looks like Gavin Newsom's running away with it, if he does Cox beats out Villaraigosa, I like the fact that California, which is so Democratic, people will actually get to see a debate and see another side of an issue. And, you know, on the radio, we hear that a lot. It's like the Republicans, it's almost 2-to-1 in registered voters, Democrats to Republicans. Actually, the Republicans now are the third party against independents, like as far as registration in California. So I just like the fact that we're going to hear a different side in a state that usually don't hear that.
Although I'd be curious to see how many debates Gavin Newsom would actually agree to in that situation.
He doesn't like to show up until the big ones.
Here's the thing about Cox, though. If he does get on the ticket, if he manages to make it to the top two, watch the Republican money flow into California, because one of the reasons Donald Trump is backing Cox is because he wants to get the voters to come out in the general election to vote for those congressional candidates.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this.
And I think that they will come out. That's the thing. Republicans typically do come out in primaries in bigger numbers. And in California, if Cox does make it and makes it to that runoff, I think the Republicans are, I mean, the numbers are, but
Plus,
if Democrats don't turn out and the Republicans do, you never know.
Plus the gas tax also
repealed
on the ballot, which is also going to drive
sure.
out Republicans. All right, let's talk about the other big issue of the week, and that's Roseanne and also Samantha Bee and these controversies over whether comedians say too much. Samantha Bee referring to Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter, using the C word on her show. Some people calling for her to be fired now. What do you make of this, and what do you think should happen to her?
Well, so I'm one of these rare people on the left who thinks that gender slurs are as bad as racial slurs, and I think they are both horrible, despicable, deplorable, right? So when Roseanne made the comments that she did, comparing Valerie Jarrett to an ape, which is, overtly racist and dehumanizing and animalizing, condemned it. And then when Samantha Bee came out and used an overt, perhaps the worst gender slur you can use, I also condemned that. I think what is interesting, though, is that Donald Trump only condemned one and not the other. He should have been perhaps condemning both, or better yet, neither, because he shouldn't be involved in making comments about who's hired or fired in the media.
It seems to me that what happens here is that the person that takes the biggest hit is the one that has the biggest spotlight on them when the morning shows start on the East Coast, because that starts the conversation, and then it just makes its way all to us.
And sometimes, like with Samantha Bee, if she was funny, maybe it would have been funnier. But like sometimes I think it's I think a lot of times comedians nowadays, because politics is so polarizing, if it's your guy or you don't like this guy and you like that guy, they're so mean about it that it's not even funny. Where's the humor? I feel like SNL's gone that way too. They're not even being funny anymore.
What do you think about Roseanne pushing the envelope in terms of network TV? Network TV, a lot of thought of as pretty bland. Roseanne brought issues back into the fold, supposed to be a representation for Trump voters.
She did it the first time around too.
And now, because she was sort of being provocative, ends up losing her job. Where do you see that in terms of where network TV is, and also the divide in America in terms of people coming together?
Well, let's just say this, right? She got hired to come back and do Roseanne because I think ABC went out and looked and said, maybe she's touching on the middle America. We haven't had a #1 show in like 20 years or whatever it was been. She got 18 million people watching her show in the beginning, live viewers. That's unheard of in this day and age for network television. So they know she was touching some sort of pulse somewhere across the country. There were millions of people who voted for Trump, whether you like him or not. People tuned in, and a lot of people from the left tuned in too. So they had sort of magic. I think they knew it was very volatile, and then, obviously,
and
she
probably
blew
a lot of people
herself
that are upset that she's off the air.
Possibly, although, money talks, right? So at the end of the day, this is all about what was going to sell.
It's like Samantha Bee. She's already lost sponsors. People have taken their money back from her show.
So with Roseanne, I do actually think it's actually continuous. It's not that that her comments were an aberration. I think that sort of level of racism is actually what is appealing about her, the appeal to middle America. Trump voters, we know now from 7 different studies, had higher levels of racial resentment. So Roseanne believing in Pizzagate and being a Trump supporter and supporting somebody who makes racist comments, I see that actually as being part of her marketing strategy.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there for now, but up next, our panel with some final predictions for Election Day. Stay with us. Here's Dan. Who's coming, Dick? Next week, the issue is, where do progressives go from here? I go one-on-one with Senator Bernie Sanders about his vision and whether he's running for president again. Final question for our panel. We got Election Day on Tuesday. Who are going to be the top 2 for governor? Your predictions, Leanne.
Newsom, Cox.
In September of 2016, I said that Donald Trump would win the presidency. I have dropped the mic and walked off the stage of predictions.
You were the one. You were the only one. Yeah.
That's good. I'm going to go Newsom Cox as well.
Wow. So why do you think Antonio's not doing better in L.A.?
I think that he had a run, but his popularity declined really rapidly. I think because of his family values, some of the activities that he engaged in that voters were not very happy about when he left office.
Well, Gavin's got those things in his
does.
closet too. But
All right. Well, thank you, guys. Conversation continues online. You can stream bonus issues right now on my Facebook and YouTube page /Elex Michaelson. We're talking about big congressional races and Kim Kardashian, President Trump. Got a lot to talk about. Thanks for joining us. Join us online and vote.
yes, Tuesday.